Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm currently renovating a property that I own. I'm replacing all the floor in a unit, so I figured this would be the perfect time for me to talk about my top 3 battery operated tools that I use on an almost a daily basis. I am a general carpenter by trade, so I do a lot of interior renovations and I do a lot more than just installing trim or framing. I do basically everything from the beginning of a project, from demo up to the finishing, the tile work, the trim, paint. So I have a large amount of tools that I use, and these are 3 tools that I've been using consistently almost daily right now. So as I've been replacing tools that break or I need to get a new tool, I've been trying to go battery operated. I'm trying to get away from being corded. Most of the projects I work on, they tend to have power, but there are a handful that I do work on that we don't have power. So battery operated is really my only option. So these 3 tools here are actually some of my newer purchases I've made recently where I've switched away from being corded to go to battery operated. So we're going to start here and we're going to talk about the table saw that I have. So this is the battery operated 8 1/4 Milwaukee table saw. I used to be using a 10-inch job site saw, and I really found that that saw was hard for me to get around to and from sites sometime because it was mounted on a wheel stand, so it was pretty hard to get up into the back of the truck on my own and unload on my own without kind of smashing on the ground. So when I decided I was going to switch away from that and get rid of that table saw, I was looking at going battery operated, and the 8 1/4 has been a fantastic option for what I do. I don't need to have that big 10-inch job site saw anymore, so this saw gives me the option to cut pretty much whatever I need whenever I'm working. When I first picked up this saw, I actually was just running it off of a 3 amp and a 5 amp hour battery, because those were the biggest Milwaukee batteries I had because I didn't really need anything bigger at that time. I've recently picked up an 8 amp hour, and that has been pretty awesome. I really don't need to charge it up daily when I'm using it. I can get about 2 days of runtime for the amount of cuts that I use with this saw without needing to charge it up. So again, this being kind of a smaller saw, it's just an 8 1/4. It's good for what I do daily. There are a couple other guys I work with that still have those 10-inch job site saws. So if I know I'm going to be working with something like a large 9 foot fridge panel or something that I need to cut down, I'll try to get a hold of one of their saws for the day and use that because this is just a little bit too small. But like I said, for most of the stuff that I'm doing daily, this saw has been fantastic. So the next tool I'm going to talk about has to be hands down my favorite new tool purchase I've made in quite a long time. This is the battery operated brad nailer from Metabo. So I actually do have a dedicated video on this nailer that I did a little while ago, but honestly I have to say this is probably my favorite tool I have right now. I used to always carry around my compressor, the hose, and the pneumatic nailer, and it has been amazing being able to switch over to the battery operated tool and just really needing the gun, the charger, the battery. And I've freed up a ton of room in my truck, which is awesome. So this nailer, it didn't come with this hard shell carrying case. I actually bought the case off of Marketplace. It was for the drill, and I just modified it. I cut a bunch of the components of the case out so it fits the gun now, the charger, the battery, and a ton of brads. So everything is just confined into this small carrying case, which is awesome. It's also a waterproof case, so I can just leave it in the back of my truck sometimes if I know I'm going to need it later that day or later that week, which is awesome. Or if I'm working outside or something and I've got this outside, I don't have to worry about anything happening to the case, the charger inside, the nails, anything like that. So with this being my one and only Metabo tool at the moment and me absolutely loving it, having nothing bad to say about this, I've been contemplating on picking up the triple hammer impact driver. So I've heard a lot of good things about that too. So Metabo, you want to send it to me? feel free. I'm not going to complain. I will definitely use it daily. And the last item that we're going to talk about here is the Milwaukee vacuum. So I was carrying around the standard shop vac, about that big, and I found it was just a little too tall to sit under my cover on my truck. So I had to lay it down sideways, and because of how round it was, it took up a ton of room. So I was contemplating on getting something a bit smaller, and I was looking at the reviews for this vacuum because it's so compact, it's battery operated. It comes with a handful of accessories here on the inside. So you have two different accessory nozzles that tuck away actually inside of the case, and the hose compacts in. Your battery goes here on the left. I figured I'd give this a shot. I got it on sale for about $130 a year and a half ago, maybe. And I have not carried a normal shop vac with me ever since because this just has enough power and enough storage in the bottom to actually clean up a job site for me at the end of the day. So through my work, we do actually have a really large rigid shop vac. So if we're doing like a full main floor rental and we're doing a big cleanup at the end of a week, for the weekend, if we know the customers are going to be using that kind of main floor in that area, if they need any of that space, we'll bring that to site and we'll use that. But for all the stuff I do normally on my own daily, this shop vac is great. I didn't really have any issues with it. I'm generally operating it off of a 3 or 5 amp hour battery. If I'm cleaning up and I'm on my own and it's a pretty big area I'm cleaning, I actually will throw in the 8 amp hour battery that I use for the table saw inside of this, and the runtime is phenomenal. I can clean up a really large kitchen, living room area with no problems. This works great for cleaning up sawdust off of Gator Guard, which is a floor protection. If you've ever used that, you know it's extremely hard to sweep sawdust out of the profile of the Gator Guard. So this is phenomenal when I use the wide attachment to actually clean the full sawdust out of all those profiles. So I just figured because I'm in the process of installing the new floor and I have a bunch of my tools out because I've got to do the floor, new trim, and some quarter round stuff, I figured this is a great time to talk about three of my top battery operated tools that I use almost daily. So if you're also working in the trades and you have tools that you absolutely love and you use on a daily that are not one of these three, leave me a comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.